Hey guys, it's been a minute, and this might be kind of all over the place because I actually wasn't gonna film this right now, but I was gonna ideally film it tomorrow. But then I was laying there and I was like, you know what, it's actually kind of a good time because everyone except for my dad is asleep, and I don't know, I was just thinking about things, and I've talked about this before, how I kind of like, sorry, I'm petting my cat, which is why I'm like looking everywhere, but how these are just supposed to be kind of candid and just like stream of consciousness, ideally with some structure, but I don't know, above all else they're just supposed to be raw. And I was just thinking about stuff and I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just sit down and talk about it. So yeah, it's been a while, because the last like vlog that I filmed, and so much has happened since then. I know I filmed like that like mini vlog back in April, like right before I went to NCUR, but the last like video that I count as a vlog is the one that I filmed in March. And yeah, something happened like right after that that was like a really big deal. And again, I don't know what I'm really gonna get into, but I just want to give a heads up that I may be talking about like some, oh god, there's cat hair in my mouth. Which by the way, I shaved. My mom, this is my mom, she like was like, you need to shave your cat because she's getting hair everywhere. And so I started and then I never finished, and so now she looks like that. It was worse a couple weeks ago, but I think my cat likes it because it's just, she's less hot, because she has a really thick coat on her, so she sheds a lot and it literally gets everywhere. So but yeah, what was I saying? Oh, so I might be talking about like sensitive subject material, and I don't know what yet, but check out the description because I'll put it there, because by the time I finish this, I'll obviously know what I have talked about. But yeah, so I'll just start with some life updates, some like non-invasive ones. So I graduated, insane. I graduated May 6th, so a couple weeks ago. Yeah, that was weird. And I also started my new job. That was like 2 weeks before graduation. I work as the director of marketing and development at Lancaster EMS, which is where I did my internship. So yeah, that has been, I really like it there. So that has been just a positive thing in my life. I will say at first I was really anxious, and yeah, I'll probably go more into that later. But yeah, I was really anxious, like to the point that I was like having trouble eating, and things just felt like really overwhelming at first, not because of the job or because of graduating. It was just the fact that like such a big change was happening. Because I don't know, I've never been a school person. I always kind of felt out of place at school, even though I wasn't like an outcast or anything like that. Like I lucked out that I didn't, like in high school, like I didn't like experience bullying or anything. Like I didn't have, people were kind to me always. I just still kind of always felt out of place. And I think that's a me thing. Like I think I just kind of view myself as like, you don't belong here. And so that's, I like internalize it even though it's not true. But yeah, I don't know, I've never really liked school settings. I like learning and I love like the connections that can happen there, and I've always been really close with like my teachers, and I've met a lot of great friends through school environments, but still it's just not my thing. They just kind of make me feel empty, like academic settings, and I think that's because they kind of like a lot of times tend to like foster inauthenticity in some ways. I don't know, and anything that does that I generally feel like just put off by, just because I don't know, some of the structure I just think is stupid. Like I don't know, like honors and stuff like that, I don't know, I just never got it. I just didn't care. So yeah, and I'm not trying to bag on anyone else, it's just like personally how I felt about school. I literally almost failed gym my senior year because I just didn't show up, and that's not something I'm proud of, but it is something that happened and I think it's kind of funny. But yeah, so that is my thoughts about school. and it's honestly really nice to be done because, again, just like I feel like I flourish with freedom, and so now it's like, wow, I don't have to like worry about assignments or anything like that, because that's the other thing with school is like you always have something that you like have to do, like even if you I sound so stupid, sounded like I was buffering. Even if you have like, I don't know, free time, it's still like, oh, I have that assignment that's due in 2 weeks that I could be working on. Whereas with work, I'm lucky enough where I can go to my job. I don't clock in and clock out because it's like salaried, but still it's like my hours are 8 to 4, and then I come home and I enjoy my evening, and that's really nice, and I enjoy my weekends. That's not to say that I don't still like do work outside of my like designated hours, because I do sometimes, but it's just nice to have like that freedom. So I feel really blessed to be in that position. But yeah, so that's been cool. And is that everything that's on like my personal life, I guess? Yeah, I don't know, I guess those are like the two big things that happened. NCUR, I'll talk about that next. So yeah, NCUR was great, guys, honestly, and I'm not saying that in like a satirical way at all. It honestly was like amazing, like kind of like life-altering, which sounds stupid and kind of cheesy, but it was. And that wasn't what I was expecting, because when I got there in Wisconsin, I felt really, and this was April, by the way, and I'm bringing up the timeline because I'm going to talk about something else probably where the timeline is important, but this was like mid-April, and I felt really good at first going, and then I got to Wisconsin, and then I just felt like really like gross and anxious. And I remember calling my dad from the hotel, I think the night before my presentation, because we flew in on Thursday, I want to say. I think it was Thursday. My presentation was Friday morning, so, and I was the first one out of my group. There was, I think, I want to say 7 or 8 other students that went for my school, and we all went together, and it was great that the school like put that together. So yeah, it just made life so much easier. But yeah, so I don't know, I remember like calling my dad and being like, Dad, I don't really want to do this. Like, I just want to come home. And my dad, I honestly forget what he said, but it was encouraging, whatever he said. And yeah, I don't remember what happened after that. I guess I went to bed or something. But then, yeah, the next morning I went to the showing, and I knew it was going to be a special day because I walked in, and they had like a presenter there, and well, I think the term they actually used was like moderator, and she like ow, that hurt. Oh, sorry, that was my cat. She like shook my hand, and she was like, I forget exactly what she said, but she was like, I'm also a survivor, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna start crying. And yeah, I forget even what we talked about, but it was just like a special moment. And yeah, and I was walking to my seat, and this was the other cool thing that happened. Someone was like, oh yeah, like I came to see like the film about trauma and memory, and I was like, that's my film, I directed that. And so that was cool. And I got to see like my name on screen and everything. And then there was like a Q&A afterwards, because it wasn't just me, there was 2 other, they had like segments of, and they had a couple different like film segments. In each segment there was 3 films. Mine was the first to go that day, and actually the first to go out of all the films, because Friday was like the day that the presentations started, I think. Not that any of that matters, but yeah. And the other 2 people that I presented with were really great too, and their films were really interesting. And it was cool to like meet people who have like some of similar passions as you. And but yeah, what was I saying? Oh, and there's a Q&A session, and then afterwards, like the presenters like stayed and talked if people like wanted to come up and ask them about their film, and there had to have been like a dozen people that like lined up to like speak with me, and that was such a cool thing. And I don't know, it's just like a really beautiful moment. And I'm sure I'll talk about it more later. I'm just kind of like briefly going over things, because I know I made like such a big deal. I was like, I'm going to NCUR, and like it's gonna, and now I'm just like kind of briefly running through it. But yeah, and the other thing, the film, or not the film itself, But like the trip itself was just so amazing, and not even because like the I mean the film showing was like obviously a huge part of that, like that was a really big moment, which by the way, clips from that are on YouTube that I filmed, and I thought that was because I just wanted to like have that moment to look back on, so that's cool. But yeah, the people that I met specifically, I met this guy named Brian and this other person named Abbie, who is literally just like I wonder if they're watching this. Yeah, literally just like the brightest light, and I've never had someone so acutely impact my life in such a positive way, and they did that, and that was just like really cool. It was kind of like meeting a version of myself that was more healed, or just I guess healed in general. And usually when people tell me like, oh, it gets better, I'm like, okay, sure, like whatever. Even though I don't know, it's kind of like ironic because I tell other people that, but I guess it's just because I got like so used to like other people coming to me for help that I'm still kind of unlearning this belief that I can't be helped. So yeah, Abbie was just such a light, and when they said like, oh, it gets better, I actually believed them, and that was really just cool. And now we're starting a book club, so yeah. And so that was NCUR, and again, there's more stuff, but I'm just kind of skipping over it because I don't know, my brain is scattered. And I guess those are like the highlights from the trip, but it was just a great trip. It was honestly so great. Oh my god, I'm missing something so big. So someone, one of the people who came up and talked to me after the film is a professor in Tulsa, at a college in Tulsa, and they're also on the board of the Tulsa chapter of NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they reached out too, and they're like, hey, like I would love to like help you spread this, you know, like elevate your voice and help you share the story because I think it's important. And so we haven't communicated in a while, I think because the part that she's working on right now is not something I have to be involved in, but we're currently working on possibly additional showings, so I may be going to Tulsa next year, but that's going to be something that's like happening in 2024. And yeah, that was really cool because I was like, I know what NAMI is. Like that's like something that I've heard of before. So yeah, that was really cool and just like a rewarding moment. Yeah, it was rewarding to like, because I've been working on this project for so long, and it felt like I was just like in the dark because I don't know, it was just from an emotional and like a technical standpoint, it was just such a big undertaking, and then to finally have it like see the light of day, even if it was just the first half, and then to get like such positive feedback, I was like, wow, like this was actually for something. Like I wasn't just like throwing all this like pain and hours of work into a void. Like this actually created this beautiful thing that positively impacted people, and that was very cool. Yeah, and hopefully I'll finish it. I haven't touched the film since NCUR, since before NCUR, because yeah, I honestly, like I couldn't handle it, and that kind of brings me to my prior point, or not my prior point, it was something that happened like before everything that I've talked about thus far. So end of March, yeah, hopefully I don't lose my train of thought because that happens a lot when I talk about like emotionally intense things. I just like it's literally like my brain shuts down and like I just blank out. Yeah, this is gonna sound kind of insane, but I almost killed myself. Like that was the closest I'd ever gotten to committing suicide, because, and I know I talk about it so casually, and it's not because I'm trying to normalize that issue, because I saw something, sorry, I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but I saw a post once that said something that like we should like destigmatize mental illness but not normalize it, because I think normalizing stuff, I don't know how to explain it, but like it matters the way that we talk about things, because I think sometimes if we talk about things like too casually, then people, like, it loses its significance and its impact. kind of like what we've seen with like depression and anxiety, like those words just get thrown, and trauma, like those are, and gaslighting, like words like that just get thrown around a lot and they just use their meaning. So when I'm talking about like serious stuff, it's not because I'm like trying to make light of it. It's just, I don't know. I guess for me, it's like because I've dealt with those things for so long, like it's not like it should be a bigger deal than it is. To me, I don't know. I don't know if that made any sense, but I'm just gonna talk about things. But yeah, no, I'm not even kidding you. Like I actually was like really close to hurting myself. And it's hard because like I honestly don't remember it too well, but I just was like in this very like deep dissociative state and to the point that I like rationalized taking my own life because I felt like at peace, and I'm using quotation marks because it wasn't peace, it was just numbness. Because when I have like thought about suicide in the past, there's always been things that like kept me here. Like when I was younger, I was like, no, like I want to like finish my book, and like I have like this, I know that I'm supposed to do things with my life, like stuff like that. And in March, I just like felt so disconnected from everything and everyone, and I was like, oh, I'm at peace, like it's okay, like I can leave now and everything's gonna be fine, like my family will be fine, I feel at peace with the things I haven't accomplished, like it's okay. And I wasn't like necessarily depressed, like I don't think that I was depressed, I think I really was just like not in my right state of mind. And there was a specific day that I'll get into, and there were things that happened that day that like I think kind of put me over the edge, that are like related to the trauma that I experienced as a child, even though they're not like intense things, like it's just stuff that like kind of quote unquote triggered me. But I remember when I was driving back from Lancaster, because I had class that day, and it was like nighttime, and I was in the car. Sorry, my brain is doing that thing. But I was driving, and I was just like mulling all of that over, and I had this like thing in the back of my mind where I was like, this is not normal, because I know like the trademarks of dissociation. I was like, this sounds a lot like dissociation, like I think you are dissociating. And so even though I still felt like quote unquote at peace with like I wasn't scared about the thought of taking my own life, like I felt okay about it, I was like, this isn't normal and I need to tell someone. And so but then when I pulled into my exit to like into my hometown, I started like my anxiety levels like picked up, and I started to get that feeling of like when I'm about to have like a flashback, and I was like, oh shit. And then yeah, that just like kept, I don't know, just kept getting like more anxious. And then I pulled it into my driveway, and when I got out of the car, this was wild, like I could like not, it was like hard to walk, because by the time I pulled in, like my hands were shaking on the steering wheel, and I like stumbled into the house. I like kicked my shoes off, I don't know, I just remember they were like laying in the middle of the floor. And I went upstairs, and by the time I got upstairs, I was like hyperventilating, and my mom was in bed, and my dad was in the bathroom, because I was just like, I just need to like get to my parents. And my mom was like, what? She like jumped out of bed right away. She was like, what is going on? And I don't even remember, like, I don't know, honestly, I don't know what I said. Like I just was like freaking out. And then yeah, I don't know what happened. I just remember like I was sitting, at one point I was like sitting on the floor and I remember this part well because I've never had like, I didn't know flashbacks could like get this intense. And it's kind of like a panic attack mixed with like, I don't know, it's horrible. Like it sucks so bad. And it is a lot like losing, I've said this before, I use this like phrase a lot, but like losing body autonomy. And I was sitting on the floor, and my mom was like, what is going through your head? Like, what's like, and the only thing I could think of was, I don't want to have sex. Like, that's the only thing I could think of. And I started saying that. And then as soon as I said it, I just started screaming it over and over again. And yeah, that happened a couple times because my mom was like, what is wrong? And that's like the only thing I could say. And then eventually it was like me, my mom, and my dad like all sitting on the floor, and I was like, yeah, I was like thinking about killing myself. And they were like, whoa, like what? And they're really surprised by that because, and I think a lot of people would be, just because the way that I carry myself is like so normal. Yeah, which is weird because like I don't feel like I'm very like, for me, like mental health stuff is very compartmentalized. Like I feel like my worst days and my best days, like I don't present myself that differently. So yeah, I don't know, it's a blessing and a curse because on one hand, like it doesn't, like for example, some people who struggle with depression, like they struggle to get out of bed. And so then things start to pile up, and like they stop taking care of their hygiene, they stop showing up to work. I'm really lucky in that that's not really a component of depression for me. Sorry, there's a fly in my room. So I can still like go to work and do a good job and get stuff done, and so I don't have those like extra problems on top of like dealing with mental health issues. So that's where it's a big blessing. But then on the other hand, it kind of sucks because sometimes I feel like people, like I'll talk about things like so nonchalantly that they'll be like, she's lying, like she's just like making shit up. And I'm not. It's literally just, I don't know, it's just how I'm wired, I guess. But yeah, so anyways, where was I going with that? Yeah, no, I told my parents that, and then we had a long discussion, and it was actually a good conversation because I don't know, the reason I hadn't told them is because a lot of times I do feel like a burden. And that was the other thing too with my with rationalizing like taking my own life. I was like, well, it'll be easier on my parents because then they don't have to like worry about me. Because I do know that's like something that they've worried about in the past, like is Allie gonna like hurt herself because she struggles with things. And I feel really bad that like I'm like, out of my siblings, like I'm the only one that they have to like worry about that stuff. And I definitely feel guilty about that. And it was just nice to hear them say like, you're not a burden, like it'd be so much worse to not have you here. And I don't know, I guess it's like, I just like, sometimes I struggle with the idea that like people do like love me just for who I am. Like yeah, I always feel like I have to be like bringing something to the table. Like I'm not just like me existing is like enough. Like that's still an idea that I'm trying to wrap my head around. So yeah, and then I got sick that night, which was a nightmare. Like I actually like got the flu, and I get extremely anxious when I'm sick, and I like dissociate really bad when I'm sick, which is like a whole nother story in and of itself. And I swear I'm not using that word, like just throwing it out there. Like I literally do like feel like I'm like detached from my body. Cause yeah, when I get sick, I could just get like extremely anxious. So yeah, and that was hard, and I literally thought I was dying. And yeah, it's hard to remember like the last 2 months because like it was just so much has happened. And there's even stuff that I'm not talking about that like isn't bad, but it involves my family, and it's stuff that we can't talk about yet because I don't know. I don't even know why I'm bringing that up, but I'm just trying to say that it was like a really like just a lot of stuff happened in a very short span of time. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, I don't know, it was a lot. And the first couple days I learned a lot though. I will say now that my perspective on life is like completely shifted. Oh, I stopped taking Zoloft, that's another important thing. And then I was on meds for like a month, and now I'm on Prozac again, which has helped a lot. But yeah, I will say that like my perspective on life has greatly shifted, like in a good way. I feel like more stable and grounded and present than I ever have in like my whole life, I guess, from what I can remember. Sorry, it's getting to that point in the video where I like get tired and then I just start saying things, and then I get more like, I'm like, oh, okay. What am I trying to say? if I'm gonna edit this either because I don't feel like it, because then I'm gonna have to download like a 20-minute version of a video, and that seems like a lot of work, and I don't know if there's storage for that. But yeah, the past 2 months were hard, and there was a lot of days that I literally just had to survive, and I learned that that's an important thing to do, is learning that and realizing that you can make it through the day. And for a while I had like kind of like silly coping mechanisms, like playing Hay Day on my phone, or what else did I get into? Watching TV. I don't know. I really just remember playing a lot of Hay Day. But yeah, just kind of distracting myself. And I also kind of returned to my faith and like got more into like spirituality, but I'm probably gonna save that for another time because it's a whole other thing. And yeah, and then I met Abbie, and that was really helpful, and NCUR was really helpful. And I've been like listening, like making a really conscious effort to be cognizant of like my thought processes, and when I like start to kind of spiral out, so to speak, I've really had to reel myself back in. And I've gotten a lot better at it now, that like now it's starting to feel like second nature to keep myself on track rather than like indulge in negative thought patterns, which is a first. And also mindfulness is huge, and I always heard people say that, and I was like, okay, shut up, like, because I didn't know what that meant. But like being present is so important. I genuinely do. Like I just, like I said, my whole perspective on life has kind of shifted in a beautiful way. Genuinely now I look at life as like, and that's the other thing, I've kind of like started to like detract from my ego. And I just like look at life as like, wow, I'm like this like spiritual being in this physical body, and I'm just a visitor here, and all living things are like connected with one another, and I get to experience life, like the goods and the bads, and that's really beautiful. I don't know, and I know I sound like kind of like stupid when I say that, like it just sounds like something someone would roll their eyes at, which I get, but yeah, like unlocking like the beauty of the present moment is so huge. And I started reading The Power of Now, which I don't know, I started reading it actually a while ago, and then I put it down. But yeah, I started reading it again, and I can't say that I entirely understand everything that he says in that book, but a lot of it, especially like the first couple chapters, like were very eye-opening for me. And I started listening to TED Talks and like cutting out things that I knew would like, again, kind of like make me spiral out, or just like feed into like negative emotions or feelings. And yeah, TED Talks have been really helpful for me, which again, I know that sounds like so stupid, but I don't know. I listen to them when I'm at work and they're inspiring to me. And I listen to Minecraft music, which I, for some reason, like unlocks like a primal joy in me. But yeah, and too, like being graduated helps because again, I was not a school person. But yeah, really just like learning to be present. I think that's been like the greatest joy, because it's definitely helped a lot with my anxiety. So yeah, I would recommend, I made the YouTube playlist, by the way, which I put on my story. And if you're on my channel and you go to my page and you look at playlists, it should be there. There's some really great videos about that there. Yeah, so I've just been like seeking out like healthy choices, and yeah, I genuinely just feel like joy, just like a lot of joy that I haven't felt in a really long time. And yeah, I don't feel like tied down by my past. Also, I started therapy again. I started EMDR, which is a pretty big thing. I don't know why I waited so long to bring that up. But yeah, I didn't really get into like the meat of EMDR yet. I've only done like an exercise where it's like creating a safe space. So yeah, I know things are gonna get harder before they get better, even though I'm doing like really well right now, knock on wood. But yeah, I know it's gonna get a little bit difficult when I actually have to like process stuff, so that kind of sucks. But also I know that it's necessary to like have strong roots in the ground, so I'm looking forward to meeting like the healed version of myself. I think that's gonna be really cool. And I see a future for myself too, which is like not something, like a lot of different points in my life I've been able to say. So yeah, the headline is the last 2 months were really weird, and in March it was super rough, but I'm doing a lot better now. And yeah, that was my rock bottom that night when I had that really bad flashback, worst flashback I ever had, because I was like, I literally cannot keep living like this, like something has to give. And I'll probably talk more about that day later, but for now that's kind of all I want to share. Yeah, and the other thing too is there is now a Instagram for Paper Birds, which I'm going to be kind of just treating as like a diary, because there's a lot of different facets of like living through recovered memories that I want to talk about, because again, I just like the only places I've seen them covered are in Reddit forums, and there's a lot of comfort there, but also it kind of sucks because like I think when, at least this is something I do, like when you read something online from someone else, you tend to read it in your own voice. So like even though you know there's another person on the other end, like it's still kind of, the alienation doesn't like completely leave. So yeah, I just wanted to like make an online space that like talks through all these different components of that experience and what it's like to live through. And I'm at the point where I'm like, I just don't care anymore. Like, well, not entirely, because there's still things that like I'm like, I don't know if I should talk about this. But a lot of the stuff, like especially the stuff that's like relating to like my sexuality and how I view myself and feeling like a predator and I don't know, guilt, like I'm just like, screw that. Like I'm so tired of like feeling bad about that because it's not my fault. And I know a lot of people carry that, because whenever I talk about this stuff, everything that I talk about on the Instagram page is gonna be stuff that I've like vented about in these Reddit forums, that other people have like resonated with, because yeah, I know it's not just me, but unfortunately it's like not something that's publicly talked about, and I think it's because it's just really uncomfortable. But yeah, I don't know, it's like I'm gonna die anyway, so it's like I might as well just like throw caution to the wind and just be completely honest. But yeah, you shouldn't be ashamed of something you can't help. Like that's just so like stupid. Yeah, so, and the stuff that I'm gonna be sharing on there is like obviously anything like related to the film, like excerpts from the film. You'll probably see a lot of like reposts from my Instagram, a.c.brook. But yeah, there's gonna be a lot of new stuff. I'm gonna be sharing the drawings that I did while I was in therapy and kind of dissecting them and what they mean, because yeah, I just think that there's a lot of stuff with like trauma that you don't really have the ability to, especially like somatic memories, that you can't explain like with logic or like with words, because like the vocabulary is just like not there, and that's where illustrations like really come in. So I'm excited to share that, and I think it's gonna be helpful. But yeah, so follow that. It's at Project Paper Birds on Instagram, and I think it's gonna be really useful. And I am working on a website. That one has been, I don't know why, that's been kind of like every time I work on it, I like do feel like anxiety like bubble up on me in the same way that I felt when I was working on the film. And it's not like anxiety in like I'm getting stressed out about the technical stuff, like it's like the reliving aspect of it. Yeah, but I don't know, I've been good at like, I've gotten to the place now where like I don't feel like I have to force anything. Like I've just like, if I want to post something, I'll do it. But if I'm like, okay, I'm like getting this kind of triggering, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it then. So yeah, but one of the big reasons that I made the Instagram, I was debating it for a while, and I put something on my story a while back, and I asked people like, hey, should I make a separate account for the film? And I don't remember what the results were. Damn, I need to go to bed. I just remember that they were like split. But my one when I was talking to her about like submitting the film to festivals, I can't talk. She was like, yeah, it's like good to have a social media platform because like they ask for that stuff. And so I was like, okay, I'll make a note of that. And then when I was speaking with the woman from NAMI, she was like, also sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But anyway, she was like, what'd she say? I don't know. She said that it was like to make a social media presence. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. And the nice thing, and I said this in the comment on the first post, is that I just got kind of dizzy. People started following that account before I even like did anything with it. I'm thinking because, well, I put it in my bio, for like my like main Instagram page, but also because of like Instagram's like people you may know feature. And I just wanted to say that that was really nice. Like that was very just heartwarming to see, because yeah, I don't know, when people like I say this all the time and I'll keep saying it, like I don't know why people like invest in interest in like the things that I do, but I really appreciate it because I don't know why. I don't know why people care, but it's like really nice that people do, because especially for this project, because it means so much to me, just because I know like the pain that goes into living with this, and I know how many other people out there are really hurting, and most of them, I would say, don't have access to like the resources that I do, which is another reason that I'm talking about it, because I'm just like, we need to get our foot in the door, and I have like this opportunity to like do something with these experiences because of like what I studied in school and the equipment I have access to and the time that I have. And so it's like, yeah, like do something about it, like try and make a difference. So, and hopefully down the line I can pass a baton and someone else will do it. So yeah, I don't know. This is all over the place and I don't know if I'm gonna edit it. So if there's like long pauses, I'm sorry. It's just because I'm tired and there's like a million other things that are going on right now. And that's the other thing. I'm so sorry. I'm like very bad at answering messages right now. This like whole year I've just been awful at it and I'm so sorry. Yeah, sometimes I get like stressed out because I have like a bunch of unread messages and I'm like, you know what, I'm just not gonna respond to any of them. Which like doesn't make anything, it never makes it better. But like for some reason that's my thought process. But yeah, I think that's everything. I'm sorry that this was really long and all over the place, and yeah, but I just want to say thanks for tuning in. If you did, I really appreciate it. And I don't know, hopefully I'm excited to see where Paperbirds goes. Hopefully somewhere like hopefully it's helpful. I don't know. I'm tired.